Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this really cute pumpkin plant decoration for the Halloween and fall season. So let's get into it. Okay, so for this project I am going to be using 5 different colours of yarn. Firstly, I'm going to be making the flower pot with this lilac lavender coloured yarn. This is double knit acrylic yarn and I've got about 50 grams of this. And then for the soil colour, I'm going to be using this kind of sandy brown colour. Again, this is double knit acrylic yarn. For the pumpkin, I'm going to be using this kind of burnt orange colour. This is double knit acrylic yarn. And then for the pumpkin curls, I'm going to be using this dark green double knit acrylic yarn. And lastly, for the pumpkin stalk, I'm going to be using this dark brown double knit acrylic yarn. For my hook, I'm going to be using a 2.5mm hook, but a 3mm or even a 4mm hook is fine, depending on your tension. I just have a looser tension, so I like to size down a hook. You'll also need some scissors, a stitch marker, and you'll also need a sewing needle. You're also going to be needing some sort of stuffing. Today I'm going to be using yarn scraps because they work just as well as stuffing, but if you prefer you can also use like a polyester toy stuffing. This works fine as well, but it's just not as accessible as regular yarn scraps. Most people who crochet or knit have lots of scraps to kind of use, so that's why I suggest using them. Okay, so I'm going to show you first how to make the flower pot. So I'm grabbing my lavender yarn, and you're also going to need your stitch marker, and then I'm just going to basically make a slip knot, and then I'm going to start off with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the 4th chain from the hook. That, and that's just going to create a ring that we can crochet into. So as you can see, when you separate the chain, there is that ring in the middle. So I'm going to start off by making 6 single crochets into this center ring. So I'm just going to insert my hook into the ring, then I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and then I'm going to yarn over again and pull through those 2 loops. And I'm going to be doing 6 of those single crochets, and I'm making sure that I'm crocheting over this tail. So that was 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So once you've done your 6 single crochets, you just want to tug on the tail to close the ring, and if it doesn't close all the way, you can continue weaving it in on the next round, and then it should close when you tug it for the following round. So once you've completed the 6 single crochets, you want to place your stitch marker into that 6th stitch, and then we're going to start round 2, which is going to be 2 single crochets into each stitch, and this is going to bring your stitches up to 12. So I'm going to find that first single crochet, just going to loop that tail over so that I can continue weaving it in, and I'm going to make 2 single crochets into this stitch. So that's 1, that's 2, and then into the next stitch, same thing, 1 single crochet and 2 single crochets. So now I'm just going to continue that all the way around, and then when I get to the stitch marker I will place my last 2 single crochets into that stitch. Okay, now I'm just going to place the stitch marker back in to that final stitch. You should have 12 stitches in your round, and now I'm going to be doing round 3, which is going to be a sequence of 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then 2 single crochets into the second stitch. So I'm just going to do 1 single crochet into the first, and then to the second stitch 2 single crochets, and then 1 again, 1 in the next stitch, and then 2 in the following stitch. And I'm just going to repeat that all the way around, alternating the pattern of 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets until I get to the stitch marker. By the end of the round you should have 18 stitches. For round 4, I'm going to do 1 single crochet into the first 2 stitches, and then into the third stitch I'm going to do 2 single crochets. So I'm going to start off with my first single crochet, and then my next single crochet into the next stitch, and then into the third stitch 2 single crochets. And I'm just going to continue that until I reach the end of the round, and then you should have 24 stitches in your round. For round 5, I'm now going to be just doing 1 single crochet into each back loop. So I'm only going into the back loop. The back loop is basically going to be the loop furthest away from you. So right here is your front loop, and your back loop is the one right behind it. So if you're tilting the V's on its side, it will be the left loop of that V. And I'm just going to do 1 single crochet into that back loop, and I'm just doing 1 in each back loop all the way around. Okay, so for round 6 I'm going to just be doing 3 single crochets, so 1 into the next 3 stitches, and then into the 4th stitch I'm going to do 2 single crochets. And I'm going to repeat that sequence all the way around, which should give you 30 stitches. So I'm going to start off with my first 3 single crochets. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and then into the 4th stitch make your 2 single crochets, and then I'm going to repeat that all the way around. And remember, this time we are working back in both of the loops. For round 7, I'm just going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So there's no increases, and I'm going through both loops. I'm just making 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. For round 8, I'm going to be doing 4 single crochets, so 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches, and then into the 5th stitch I'm going to be doing 2 single crochets. So I've got my first 4 single crochets, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then into the 5th stitch 2 single crochets. I'm going to repeat that all the way around, and you should have 36 stitches by the end of the round. Okay, and then for round 9 to round 12, I'm just going to be doing 1 single crochet into each stitch. So that's just 4 rounds of single crochet, and then once I've done that, I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. And you should have kind of a flower pot type shape where the base is sort of thinner in width, and then the sides of the flower pot kind of widen outwards. Okay, so I've just completed the flower pot and I've just chained 1 and fastened off. I'm just going to set this aside, and I'm going to be working on the soil section, which is also going to be the lid of the pot. So for the soil section, you're essentially just going to want to kind of repeat what you did for the flower pot with a few changes. So you're going to want to start off with your 6 single crochets in the ring that we made. So you want to chain 4 and slip stitch into the 4th chain. Okay, and then you want to just make your 6 single crochets into that ring. The second round you want to make 2 single crochets into each stitch. Okay, and And then for your next round you just want to do the same sequence where you do 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then 2 into the second, which will give you 18 stitches. And then for your 4th round you want to do 2 single crochets, 1 into the first 2 stitches and then into the 3rd stitch 2 single crochets, which will give you 24 stitches. And then for the next round 3 single crochets and then 2 single crochets into the 4th stitch, which will give you 30 stitches. And then round 6 you want to do 4 single crochets and 2 single crochets into the 5th stitch, which will give you 36 stitches. And then you just want to do 1 round of single crochet, so no increases. And we're just keeping this one flat, so you should end up with like a flat circle. So I'm going to just complete that now off camera, and then I'm going to come back and show you how we attach the lid to the flower pot. Okay, so this is what the lid is looking like, and I basically just did the pattern that I included on screen, finished with 1 round of single crochet, and then I just chained 1 and fastened off. And now I'm going to show you how we connect both of these together. So you're going to want to stuff the base of the flower pot with your yarn scraps or your stuffing, whatever you're using. You want to kind of make sure that the base of the flower pot is kind of heavier, because you want it to be able to hold the stuffed pumpkin, as well as the kind of vines that we're going to be making. So just place the lid on top. It doesn't matter at what point, you don't need to make sure that the ends are connecting or anything like that. And then you just want to take your lilac yarn and you want to make a slip knot. Okay, so you can insert your hook at any point around the top of the flower pot and the lid. And you want to just grab any stitch, and you want to just grab the back loop of the purple and the front loop of the brown. So basically it is the inside loops of both when you hold them together. And then you just want to pull your slip knot through both of those, like that. And just chain 1 to attach them. Okay, so once you've done your chain 1, we're going to be basically making single crochets into those inside loops to attach the lid and the flower pot. So you just want to insert your hook into the next back loop of the purple and the next front loop of the brown, and then just make your single crochet as normal through both of those, like that. And I'm going to continue that all the way around, just connecting both of those inside loops. So I'm going into that back loop of the purple and the front loop of the brown, and then just making my single crochet. And I'm just going into each of those inside loops all the way around, and I'm going to continue stuffing the work as I go, so just make sure that you continue doing that, and then I will come back once I reach the end of the other side. Okay, so I've just single crocheted all the way around and I've stuffed the whole lot of the flower pot, and I'm now just going to slip stitch into that first chain 1 that we made right there. Slip stitch like that, and then just chain 1 and fasten off. And then if there are any loose ends, you can just tuck them in with your hook. Okay, so you can just set aside your flower pot for now, and I'm now going to be showing you how to make the pumpkin. So you want to take your orange colour and again chain 4 and then slip stitch into that 4th chain to make a ring. And just like I did for the lid of the flower pot, I am going to be doing the exact same pattern, 6 single crochets into the centre, and then the second round I'm going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch. Next round 1 single crochet and then an increase. Next round 2 single crochets and an increase. Next round 3 single crochets and an increase, and then 4 single crochets and an increase. And I'm going to then after that do 4 rounds of single crochet, so that's just 1 single crochet into each stitch. So I'm going to do that off camera because I hope that now you've kind of got the flow of this sequence that I'm doing, and I'm going to have it up on screen as well. It's the exact same process that we've really been doing, but I'm going to come back after the 4 rounds of single crochet because then we're going to be decreasing. So this is what it should look like once you have done your 10th round. So that is going to be the 4th round of just the single crochet. And now we're going to start decreasing, which is essentially the opposite of when we were increasing at the beginning. So I'm going to start off with 4 single crochets and then a decrease. So I'm just doing 1 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. It's 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then I'm going to do my decrease. So for the decrease, I'm just picking up the front loop only of the next stitch, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and I'm going to pick up the front loop of the next stitch and do the same thing, yarn over and pull through. So you should have 3 loops on your hook, and then you want to yarn over and just pull through all 3 loops, and that is your decrease. And then you just want to repeat that all the way around. So again, 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then your decrease stitch, so picking up the next front loop, yarn over and pull through, and then picking up the next front loop, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. You want to repeat that all the way around. So for this round it will be 4 single crochets and then a decrease, and you will have 30 stitches by the end of the round. For the next round you want to do 3 single crochets and a decrease, repeating that around, and then you will have 24 stitches. For the following round, 2 single crochets and a decrease, and then you will have 18 stitches. And for the following round you want to just do 1 single crochet and then a decrease, and then you'll have 12 stitches in your round. And then for your final round you just want to decrease into every single stitch. So that is going to be picking up the first loop, yarn over and pull through, and then the second loop, yarn over and pull through, and you want to do that for every single stitch. So for the final round you will end up with 6 stitches. You want to make sure that as you are decreasing, you are stuffing the pumpkin. And then I'm going to come back once I've done that final round of just decreases, and then I will show you the next step. Once you have finished your final round where you have done all of your decreases, you just want to then cut the yarn and then just pull tail out, and then remove the stitch marker. You can either do this with a hook or with your sewing needle. I'm just going to do it with the sewing needle because it's a little bit easier. And then I'm just going to insert the needle into the next stitch from the back to the front, like this. And I'm just going to pull through. And then the same thing into the next stitch, I'm going to insert the needle from the back to the front and pull through. And I'm just kind of wrapping the yarn around each stitch, so going into the next stitch from back to front, to the next stitch from back to front, just going all the way around. And once you have gone into each stitch, you just want to pull gently on the yarn, and it should close the hole nice and neat, like that. And then you can just tuck the tail onto the inside of the work, like that, and then just pull it out. And then you can just cut the yarn like that. So you should have a nice circle like this, and then I'm going to show you how we make the indent on the pumpkin. So you want to take your orange yarn and just cut a long piece, and then you just want to make a small knot at one end. And then we are going to be inserting the needle at the bottom of the circle. It doesn't matter where, but just somewhere around the centre at the bottom. And you just want to push your needle up to the top centre. So just find that centre like that. Just push your needle through, and it's fine if you want to leave the tail kind of out because you can tuck that in later. So for the indent, we're basically just going to be wrapping the yarn around from the top to the bottom, and then we insert the needle from the bottom and go back up to the same point on the top. So I'm just going to wrap the yarn kind of around the side of the sphere, and then I'm going to insert my needle into the centre at the bottom and come back out at the same spot at the top centre, like that, and then just pull through. Okay, and you should have this kind of line going all the way around, and then you just want to pull tight, and this is going to create an indent that typical pumpkins have. And you can do this as many times as you want. I'm just going to be spacing mine out evenly, and you just want to repeat the same thing. Once you have done your last one, you just want to then tuck the tail in at the top of the pumpkin. You'll notice that the indents look a lot neater, so I'm actually going to have the pumpkin facing this way up. So I will be sewing the stalk this way rather than this way, but you don't have to. It's just that I think the indents look a lot neater at the bottom of the pumpkin. So this is now going to become the top of the pumpkin. Okay, so I'm now going to be working on the stalk of the pumpkin. So I'm going to be taking my brown yarn, and again I'm going to make a slip knot and chain 4. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the 4th chain. Okay, and then for the stalk I'm going to be making 5 single crochets into the ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm just going to pull on the tail and place my stitch marker into that last stitch. And then I'm just going to do 4 rounds of single crochet. So from round 2 to round 5, I'm just going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. Okay, so once you've done your 4 rounds of single crochet, you just want to cut a long string for sewing, and then just pull the tail out, and then you can just sew the stalk to the top of the pumpkin like this. I just kind of go around by just weaving the sewing needle kind of up and down. Okay, so I've just attached the stalk to the top of the pumpkin, and now I'm just going to show you how to do the curls at the top. So you can attach your green yarn at any point around the top of the pumpkin, but you just basically want to inset your hook kind of where the base of the stalk is, so at any point, but make sure that it's kind of right on that base of the stalk. And then you want to take your green yarn, which I've already made my slip knot, and you just want to pull the slip knot through that space. Might be a bit tight. And then you just want to make a chain of 12. So for this stalk, I'm going to be doing a pattern of 2 single crochets in the first stitch and then 1 single crochet into the next stitch. So I'm just going to go into the second chain from the hook, and I'm going to make 2 single crochets like that, and then into the next stitch I'm going to just do 1 single crochet, or the next chain, sorry. Into the next chain I'm just going to do my 2 single crochets, and then into the following chain 1 single crochet. I'm just going to complete that sequence all the way up the chain. Okay, so once you've done your last stitch, you just then want to pull the yarn out and then just cut the yarn. And just to make it kind of secure, I like to tie the short end with this long end just to kind of fasten it a lot more. So I'm just going to do like a triple knot, and then I'm just going to weave the ends in with my hook. Okay, so that's what it should look like once you have completed the stalk. Then you just want to make some extra long curls for the actual plant kind of section. So I've just basically done the exact same thing that I done on the top of the pumpkin, except I didn't attach it to anything. So basically for the long curls I've just made a chain of 28, and then I just completed the same sequence where I did 2 single crochets into the first chain and then 1 single crochet into the second chain, and I repeated that all the way along, and then I just cut the yarn and left a long tail for sewing. And then I made these shorter curls, and I basically just did the exact same thing, but instead I chained 18 instead of 28. But I am going to be making 3 of these long curls, and then I'm also going to just do 2 of the shorter curls. And then once you have done all of your curls, you just kind of want to sew each one around the kind of middle section of the soil so that you have space to sew the pumpkin. So where the pumpkin will go on top here, you want to make sure that the curls are not directly in the center, because this is going to make it a lot more difficult to sew to the center. You want to kind of bring them out sort of the middle part of the soil so that they can kind of hang nicely down. So I'm going to complete that now off camera, and then once I've sewn all of the curls to the plant, you then just want to sew the pumpkin to the center with some of your orange yarn or the brown yarn, it doesn't really matter which. And then once that is done, the project is complete. And this is what the final result is looking like. I really hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you have any ideas of what you'd like me to make next, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!